So today I wanted to speak about my 1.8 VVT swapped Mx-5 Mark 1 and sort of what goes into it and how easy of a process it is to do. Because I went from a normal 1.8 to a VVT, it's slightly different going from a 1.6 to a VVT. A lot of the things that I'm going to mention are the same, but there's a couple of additional things that's required as well. What I'll do, I'll leave a couple of links in the description on the sources that I use, which also include how to do it for a 1.6 to a VVT. Personally, I think that the swap in general is a great way to go. You get a boost in power, it feels way better to drive, it's way more linear, and you get the reliability of having a newer engine, as long as it's not an abused engine. It's newer, less miles, more power. You can't really complain, and you can get the swap done in a weekend easily. So before you buy the engine, you've got to make sure that you've got an ECU. I have a Me 2-to-1, which is great. The only drawback is it's not got a built-in wideband, so I need to add an AFR and a wideband. Whereas if you got the Me 442, that's got a built-in wideband anyway. You also need to buy an EGR blanking kit, which just goes on the rear of the engine. I think Boffy sells them, Mx-5 parts might sell them, and you can get them off eBay, they're not very much. And then prior to throwing out your old engine, there's a couple of parts that you need to pinch off of it. These are the old coolant temp sensor at the rear of the engine, the old oil pressure sensor, the Mark 1 alternator, throttle body, and then you also need the fuel pressure regulator. This is off the main fuel rail. What I did to save on money, instead of buying a radium fuel rail with a built-in pressure regulator, I decided to go for a BP4W fuel rail, which I then put the standard Mark 1 fuel pressure regulator onto. It saved loads of money in the process and made the swap really affordable. You should also retain your standard 1.8 manifold for a Mark 1. If you're doing it from a 1.6 to a VVT, it's probably best off you get a standard Mark 1 manifold that's a 1.8, just so you can run a normal Mark 1 exhaust, and it just saves a load of hassle. So once all these parts are fitted onto the new VVT engine, it's onto the wiring, which is a lot easier to do out of the car to get it set up and right, and then connect it all once it's in the car. So firstly, you need to convert your old cam angle sensor to a cam angle and crank angle sensor on the new engine. This can be done by using this diagram that I'll put up on screen, which I did originally, but I did a really piss poor job at it. So instead, I decided to buy just this entire loom piece from DigiTune. It's quite affordable, and to be honest, it's a no-brainer to get. It saves the hassle of making your own loom. If you are going to attempt to do any of the wiring yourself, make sure you use 22 AWG wire at least. Next is enabling VVT. This can be done by using this diagram that I'll show here. I used my injector ignition live switch, and for the Mac LS port, you can pin it directly to the ECU, whereas because I've already removed my purge valve, I just routed that to the purge valve and used it as like a piggyback to the ECU. In doing this wiring, you've got to make sure that you've got an SB340 diode between the wires, and you've got to make sure that the stripe on the diode is facing the ignition switch to live. The diagram does show that, but it's easy to miss the orientation of the diode. So this is where I installed the engine into the car before I did any more wiring. The next set of wiring is to connect the old ignition coil wiring to the new coil on plugs wiring. So doing diagrams for this is kind of complicated because I'm pretty sure different years and different engines had different wiring, but for mine, I did the 12 volt feed first, which was the old wire was blue and the COPS wiring was black and white, so I wired them two together. The earth is black to black. Cylinder 1 and 4 on the old wiring was brown and yellow, and that goes to the brown and white. Cylinder 2 and 3 was brown and black on the old wiring to black and yellow on the new wiring. Make sure that you search your car and make sure that it's right, but I had an issue where I got cylinder 1 and 4 and 2 and 3 mixed up, and it wasn't cranking, and it took me ages to diagnose it until I finally did, and then it just started running straight away. That's about all of the wiring done at that point. It's recommended to also use a VNOx sensor, which are on the engines that you have to pin to your ECU. I didn't, but it does help tuners get more out of your engine. It's also recommended to fit a 32-to-2 trigger wheel just to help in tuning and getting it dialed. I never did, but it's something that I am thinking about doing in the future, and you can get a hell of a lot more out of your engine. Another one that's also recommended is to use a intake air temperature sensor, which again I did have when I was turboed on my old engine, but I sold it with the kit, so instead I decided to just use my normal MAF, and it worked absolutely fine. Lastly now is to check over absolutely everything. All the fuel lines, all of the vac lines, make sure all the wiring's safe and out of the way, and that it's all got good grounds and everything's just set up. And before you try and load a base map or even attempt to turn the key or touch the key, you've got to make sure that the ST signal fuse is removed, or else it could fry the ECU. So I used a massive mix of Motorsports Electronics' guide and Boffy's guide. I'll put both of the links below. A lot of the photos that I've used, especially for the wiring, has come from them, sourced from them. They're great tutorials, great ways to read through and get a grasp of how to do the swap. So like as I mentioned prior, this isn't a complete tutorial, more of just a video to show it's not that difficult, and I've got no mechanical knowledge or experience really. I've just messed around with my own car and I've had it running now for months and it's absolutely spot on. So anyone can do the swap, it's really easy to do. To get started as well, I'd also recommend contacting DigiTune for a base map and then go from there through him just to get it running, and then you can either get him to do a full tune on it or take it to a rolling road and get it fully dialed in. So all in all, the swap cost me around £500-ish. The engine was like 200, and then just for all the little bits and bobs, and then getting the base map, and then just going from there, dialing everything in and getting everything sorted, like the little bits that you don't think about, like the wiring, things like that. So yeah, I'd say it was about £500, but from what I've gained from it, it's completely worth it. So I'd like to say a massive thank you for watching the video. If I've missed anything, or you've got any questions at all, or anything more to add, please feel free to put it in the comments and I'll try and get back to it as quick as I can. I'd like anyone who's wanting to have a go at this to feel free to have a crack at it and do it for themselves, as it's not a hard swap to do and it's really worth it in my opinion.